Your attorney is there to guide you through the legal process rather, and advocate for your defense, whether you go to trial or whether you're going to plea or and cooperate. Your attorney is your legal resource, and you've done your due diligence in picking your attorney. They're a great attorney, hopefully practicing federal criminal defense in federal court with experience in cases like yours. My name is Mark Blatstein, physician founder of Physician Pre-Sentence Report Service, white collar sentencing mitigating solutions. And so, being that only 2% of those who attempt to go to trial win or are acquitted, the majority wind up with the guilty verdicts. So after guilty, the majority of your future for most of us is up to you. And so it's going to turn out to be what is going to be your best strategy. And this is just my opinion, but as we get to the end of this YouTube video, it's going to also be echoed by federal judges. So the best strategy winds up being beyond the legal. And so what is the one thing if judges are sentencing many people every day of every year, and probation officers are conducting pre-sentence interviews multiple times every day of every year, and they both have done this for years, what's the one thing you can do to stand out among everyone else? And this is a big question, because you want to be able to get the you want to increase your chances of getting the least amount of time or the best possible sentence. And your backstory, as I will call it and go into, is going to be the one vehicle that you're going to be able to use. It's going to be your sentencing. It's going to be your personal narrative or your narrative essay. It's going to be your story. And it's going to come from your own experience, your life story. How did you get to this point in your life? Your judge is going to want to know. Judges understand crimes don't happen in a vacuum. They're going to want to know that you have the remorse for harming the victims that you've created, even though you may not agree that there are victims. We need to talk that part through. But the very first thing that you had to do is get an attorney. I would hope that you want to engage my services, but there are victims and you need to accept responsibility. If there was people in your company that they're under you, I hate to tell you this, I owned my company. I had a felony in 2006. I was able to get my medical license back, but we have to accept responsibility because it's our business. This is your moment, and it's your narrative that can shape your future. It's your story from childhood till today, what happened in your life. I'll work with you to develop a well-written personal narrative that comes from the heart, because it could end up being a cathartic experience where you're able to kind of uncover deep, dark secrets of your past. It can be the good and the bad of what you've been through in your life. But it's very important to be able to get this on paper. It can be very long or it could be very short. But you need to have it written down, because the judge ultimately is going to want to know more about you. And if you do not do this, which is your choice, then the judge is going to be left to sentence you based on your indictment. And chances are, if you're like most of us, the indictment was likely not that flattering. Your probation officer is the most important person in your life to start. You've never met them, but treat them with respect and get all the information that they're going to request from you. And why are they important? Because the judge depends on your probation officer who conducts the pre-sentence interview, because they're going to recommend your sentence and where you're to be placed to the judge. So I would think that's pretty important stuff. And so, how can you make them your advocate? I would say you're not going to make friends with them, but if you can get all the information that they want to them in a nice, timely fashion, spell checked, organized, and if you have your narrative written out for them, it'll make their lives easier. If you can get it to them 7 to 10 days before you actually meet, they can fill out their pre-sentence report worksheet so that all their job is done. Then they may actually appreciate you taking the time to respect their time. And they'll also realize that you're treating this interview with the respect it deserves. Your judge, I've already said, they understand crimes don't happen in a vacuum. How can you humanize yourself to them? You can start by writing this narrative we talked about, your personal story, your brand, what happened to you in your life that brought you to this point. We each have one. What was your story? Because if you don't do it, as I said, then they don't have a choice but to sentence you based on that indictment. And so we have here federal judge Mark Bennett. I'll get this bigger. Oops. I'd like to make that bigger if I can. So allocutions will evolve out of your narrative, but these are the allocutions that federal judge Mark Bennett, and I believe this is either Champion Magazine or the Federal Lawyer, he says works for him. You want to be sincere. Judges have a great BS detector. In discussion, they'll want this judge about what taking full responsibility means. They want to know that you have acknowledged that you have victims, even when the pre-sentence report indicates there are no victims. An understanding of how the crime affected the victims, an expression of genuine remorse. How do you plan on using prison or probation time productively? A discussion why the defendant wants to change his or her criminal behavior. And most importantly, information that helps humanize you and your role in the crime. The judges want to understand who you are. And there's only one way to do that. And the first way is to get is to not to challenge the indictment, but to humanize yourself on paper or through a video as to who you are through your personal narrative or story or autobiography written down. And then I'll work with you to write a great narrative that opens the door so that the judge will have a conversation with you. When judges, they've been interviewed and they said that they see that when a judge will ask the defendant if he or she has anything to say, they'll turn around and look to their lawyer. I did that. I mean, I had a felony conviction in 2006. I got my medical license to practice back in 2010. But when the judge asked me that, I looked at my lawyer. I didn't expect to be asked the question. And so you want to be prepared for all of this. This is critical information, I believe. My personal opinion, but I'll put the icing on the cake here. It's surprising how many otherwise competent attorneys punt at the sentencing hearing. Federal Judge Patrick Schultz. Here it's regarding the sentencing memorandum, whether it is late, it doesn't go in on time, or it doesn't go in at all, or it's not quoting the best possible resources for your defense. Next, Federal Judge Robert Scalia, don't wait to think about sentencing advocacy. Since 99% of all federal clients are going to be facing sentencing, start preparing for the case right away, ASAP. So all of these suggestions that I'm discussing now should be done right away. You may want to go to trial, but it'll help your attorney know who you are if you have your personal narrative done from the very beginning. And lastly, we just discussed Federal Judge Mark Bennett, the importance of writing your personal narrative and then including it in your pre-sentence report, which means having it to your probation officer before you have your interview. So this is not coming from me. This is coming from federal judges. I'd like to think that I would appreciate it if you consider engaging my services. I spend my time white collar sentence mitigation solutions. My phone number is there, 240-888-7778. I transitioned from patient care into helping all of you if you face this, it's a daunting experience. And I was published in the Federal Lawyer in 2021 on the availability of treatment and rehabilitation in federal prison, the critical role of the pre-sentence report. I hope you've not enjoyed, but I hope that was helpful listening to this YouTube and on preparing for your pre-sentence interview. And I hope you have a safe day. And thank you for taking the time to listen.